Welcome to DEFCON 3. I'm KT McFarland. Terror attacks in Egypt, Gaza, and now Turkey have U.S. and regional security officials on the alert. With some, if not all, of these attacks believed to be linked to ISIS, how can their terror network be stopped? Well, here with their take are Kyle Shideler with the Center for Security Policy and Nick Heras from the Center for the New American Security. Well, welcome both of you. Let me turn to you first, Nick. It seems like the ISIS attacks are on the rise, not just in Syria and Iraq, but throughout the region.
Yes, ISIS is an interesting organization because not only does it have a territorial base in Syria and Iraq, which serves as its core state, it also has won the allegiance of many local Salafist jihadist groups throughout the greater Middle East, whether in Sinai in Egypt, Libya, and also with the new province it has, getting the allegiance of Boko Haram in Nigeria, and it's also looking to expand in Central Asia. ISIS has a state-building mission, but it also has a vanguard mission to present itself as a correctionist movement for the broader Salafist jihadist force that's trying to spread the global caliphate.
Kyle, let me turn to you. If Nick is right that ISIS seems to be expanding from North Africa to the Middle East to the Arabian Peninsula to Afghanistan, what are they up to? Where are they likely to target next?
Well, we know that they're very interested in Central Asia, as Nick mentioned, taking on the Taliban in a series of back and forth propaganda battles. And it seems to me that they are continuing to try to take over for Al-Qaeda in places and represent themselves as the leading edge of the global jihadist movement, which they are able to claim through their declaration of caliphate. So I would look at them being active in Afghanistan, also Yemen, and I'm still concerned about the loyalty of al-Shabaab in Somalia.
Nick, when you look at what they've done with the Islamic State, ISIS has done with the Islamic State, are they now way beyond a terrorist organization? Have they now become a nation state?
My analysis is they've always had the objective of building a core state in the Middle East, starting with Iraq, but also in Syria. In many ways, the conflicts in Syria and in Iraq have allowed ISIS to present themselves not only as a source of local authority in areas, particularly in Syria, that have lost central authority since the start of the civil war, but in Iraq also as the vanguard force against what is viewed as an Iranian-backed, Shiite-dominated Iraqi central government. And this state-building mission is very important to ISIS. It's their raison d'etre. And look into the future, we should see if ISIS continues to try to get groups, particularly in Syria, other Sunni armed opposition groups that have thus far refused to join ISIS, to flip their allegiances to join ISIS, which is really the only playbook ISIS can follow if it wants to expand its territorial control in that core Middle Eastern region of Syria and Iraq.
Okay, so let me now turn to you, Kyle. Is what we're seeing the beginning of a Shiite versus Sunni fight? In other words, what Nick was saying, that ISIS is going to unify all of the Sunni tribes and the Sunni countries against a fight against Shiite Iraq?
Well, that's certainly part of Islamic State's strategy, and I'd say that the Islamic Republic of Iran is okay with that. If you look at the current operation going on against ISIS in Fallujah, it's being led predominantly by, Iranian-linked Shia militia, and they're quite happy, I think, to paint themselves, Iran, as the defenders of the Shia everywhere. Similar case playing out in Yemen, where Islamic State is directly targeting Shiite mosques, and of course the Iranians backing the Houthis in their effort to secure the Yemeni government. So I think it's a little bit too late at this point to be talking about a Sunni-Shia war that might break out. I'd argue we're already on the brink of a hot one.
Okay, so Nick, what's America's role in all of this?
The United States has to determine from this point onward whether it wants to involve itself in a more interventionist policy towards the Islamic State, to actively try to compel or remove the Islamic State from its territorial areas in the core Middle East, or whether it wants to work with local partners to contain the Islamic State's expansion, whether those local partners are Kurds or in Iraq with popular mobilized militias that tend to trend Shia, or by building up an alternative Syrian armed opposition group, or whether to work with our regional allies such as Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Qatar to have a armed opposition movement that while we might not like them, will check the expansion of the Islamic State. I mean, at this point, we are at an inflection point right now where the United States will have to determine moving into the future how aggressively it seeks to confront ISIS. And it seems that at this point, the strategy is to focus on containing ISIS's expansion and to try to build lines of influence into core ISIS areas, to try to erode the social basis of its rule that ISIS has been trying to build.
Kyle, you got the last word.
Well, I think we have to have a strategy to destroy the Islamic State. The longer the Islamic State is able to wave the flag of the caliphate and claim that they represent this pinnacle of jihadist aspirations, the more people will flock to their banner. But at the same time, we can't forget that we're at war against a global jihadist movement. And that means it's a mistake to try to align or get into bed with other jihadist forces like Al-Qaeda operating in Syria or other Islamists that have the same desires as Islamic State. They just may have other disparate agreements as to who should be in charge. So we can't go running to the jihadists in order to fight the jihadists. We have to find other allies in the region, such as the Kurds, who have a nationalist vision that's not Islamist, is not jihadist, and work with them as our allies.
Well, thank you both very much for a great discussion. Kyle Shideler and Nick Heras. Check out FoxNews.com for more on the fight against ISIS. I'm KT McFarland. Thanks for watching DEF CON 3.